to explain everything. So just don't hesitate. If you can't get any step, just shout, and then we can repeat the steps. Here you
Yeah,
go.
I really don't mind going over things, because it's one of those situations where it's so much easier to show somebody in person. This medium isn't perfect for doing what we're doing, but we'll do our best.
Yeah,
So, hopefully the data connection won't drop too much. The quality of this, there's so many little moving parts that can go wrong. So don't feel like there's a silly question to ask. I don't mind going over things. Obviously, we might have to move on, if things are not moving on, but hopefully we'll all end up with most things completed. So I there are quite a lot of small models for this session. I didn't know if people were going to come into this with any um, what level of experience they would have. I know that some people have some experience. Is Kieran, is that the correct pronunciation of your name?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you say you have no experience at all, so that's okay. I mean, I've tried to cover a lot of basics in this session, and over the course of the whole course, things are going to get challenging, I think, for even people who've had some experience. But we'll just see as we go. If I need to tweak the content of things as we go, then that's also something that can be done. But I've aimed for something that's relatively ambitious because I want people coming out of this course to really feel like they have the confidence to tackle things that maybe they wouldn't have attempted before. You know what I mean? So we can't do that without being slightly ambitious. So hopefully, it's pitched right. And my general philosophy on this is if you feel like any failing or something that you failed to grasp or failed to get, the responsibility for that is with me, and anything that you do successfully is all your own work. That's how it goes when you're facilitating, right? So just don't feel like the pressure is on you. Okay, so we've got lots of things to get through, and I'm conscious that we should like kind of crack on. But I wanted to have a quick word about general symbols and terminology. So if would can everybody see? I think that the first thing that we'll start to fold today would be the water bomb base, and if you can see um, the tutorial. I mean, I've made these diagrams myself, and I've tried to use as much of the standard kind of notation as you'll get. So what you'll see is a bunch of dash lines, dot and dash lines, and arrows, and it can be quite confusing visually at first, but it's a pretty simple language. The most important thing to cover in the first instance is this idea of a valley fold and a mountain fold. So just very, I'm actually going to do the first step on the water bomb base, and you'll see that the image there, it has these two dashed lines like that. They denote a valley fold, and a valley fold is one which, if you look down on the paper, I'm going to fold this up like that. I'll pinch in the middle because so I've lined up all the corners as sharply as I can, pinching in the middle. I think the camera might struggle a little bit when it's white on white. So that we're looking down on now is what they call a valley fold, and it's always denoted in the literature by this a dashed line, just dash 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 dash. If I turn this paper over, so this fold is now sticking up at me like a little mountain. Then if I wanted to denote that in the literature, it would be a dash and a dot and a dash and a dot. So basically a dotted and dashed line is a fold which is sticking up at you with this, you're looking down on the spine of the fold, and a dashed line is a valley which is kind of pointing away from you. And that's like the standard language of these things. So there's a bunch of other kind of folds which you come across quite a lot, and different books and things have different ways of notating those, but the valley and mountain fold is pretty much universal. So I think if we're ready to start making some bases, I want to have a quick word on what that word means. Okay, so when we make an origami model, when you design a model, you've essentially taken this one plane of paper, and we're going to be folding it to make a number of different flaps to denote, whatever it is the model is supposed to be of. And put simply, a base is the simplest way to form the paper so that it has enough flaps to create whatever it is that you want. So if I fold this in a certain way, it'll the water bomb base, for example, that we're about to fold, it's going to end up having 5 flaps, 4 points and 1 point at the top, and that can be used to make anything which then has 4 limbs and a head or something like that. So if you follow me, the base is just the simplest form that you can make that has the right number of available flaps to create whatever model you're trying to make. So yeah, we should probably crack on and do some origami without further ado. And yeah, if anyone's done these things before, they may well have done. We've just got to kind of go through so that we're all on the same page, as it were, when we move on to the other models. So I'm going to ask you all to follow on now. We'll do the water bomb base, starting with the coloured or patterned side of the paper up. The first fold is to fold in half, which is called sometimes a book fold. I'll just do this again. And I've lined up those corners really precisely. I like to pinch in the middle, put some pressure, and then go outwards like that to make my folds as sharp as possible. And unfold. I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees and do that again on the opposite axis like that. So yeah, I don't know, Rachel, if we went through with people what to do following on, like how we would denote. But if you want to let people know that you're ready for me to move on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you want to say something about that, Rachel? Or?
Yes. So it would be useful if you can follow. Then you either put your thumbs up so we know, then we can move on to the next step. Then I will also ask, is everyone okay following? And then if you not, don't worry, just say, no, I can't follow, just please repeat again. So yeah, so that's how we are going to operate in this workshop.
Okay, so yeah, so it's I can't see anyone's face at the moment. All I've got is the origami cam in front of me. So,
so
can I assume?
will be checking on with you all. And I forgot to introduce, we have another team member, Celia. She's turning her camera off at the moment. She's responsible for tag, and this evening she will be recording and answer your question if you pop your question in the chat. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next stage, which is we're going to be folding in half again. So first we need to turn this paper over so that we're looking at, so those valley folds that we made, and now we're looking down on these nice little mountain folds. I'm going to fold this in half again on the diagonals axis this time. So the fold's going to go between the corners and straight through the point at which these already meet. And line up the corner really nicely. Again, I like to pinch in the middle. I know that if the corner and the middle are the right distance away from each other, you see, then that's the most accurate way to make that fold. And then I'm going to unfold that, spin that around, and do that the other way. And at this point, I'll wait and see if people are with me.
Are we all right? Yes. Yeah, I think we are okay to get on to the next step.
Okay, great. So this is quite a nice little illustration of the mountains and the valleys. Now you can see with the shading of the paper, you can see the little hills and valleys that we've made. The next move, it looks slightly complicated on the paper, but all we're basically doing is I'm going to hold down the bottom edge of this paper with my thumbs here. If I get my index fingers in at this side and just bring these 2 points down to meet the edge where my thumb is, And then the other corners are also going to meet these corners. And that shape that we've made with our nice little sharp creases will quite naturally fold up into this triangle. I included a little picture of the step in progress because it can be kind of difficult to get your head around at first. So then what we've got is this triangle. This is the water bomb base. It has 4 flaps and a point. And as such, it's used in a huge number of models. So is everyone with us? Did anyone have trouble getting that collapse to go?
Can we follow? Yeah, good. Okay,
Excellent.
yeah, we can all follow.
So my idea for how this session is going to go is first we'll fold a few bases, so we can have a look at the differences between them, and then we'll move on to use the bases that we've folded to make some models. So I'm going to put my water bomb base to one side and move on, I think, to the next thing, which is known as the preliminary base. It's called the preliminary base because it is like a precursor to a lot.
Tony, we lost you. Can't hear you.
Oh, hello.
Yeah. Okay.
Am I back?
You're back.
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. That's scary. Okay. I'm going to move on to the preliminary base if we're all ready. It's kind of similar in a way to the water bomb base, but it differs in a very important respect. So first we're going to fold and unfold on the diagonals, this time with the colored side facing up. And the folds are going to go across the diagonal axis from corner to corner. Yeah, hoping that the resolution stays okay through this. Because it can get tricky if you can't see the details when we start to do more detailed things. So hopefully we won't hit that wall. So I'm going to unfold that, turn that 90 degrees, and fold in half again on the diagonal axis. And just let us know when you're ready to move on with that. We're actually going to fold a couple of these preliminary bases today, I think, if we get to it.
Yeah. We ready to the next step. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to turn over and we'll do the book fold, which is essentially folding it in half square ways, you know. I think in the diagram I've oriented the paper a different way, but again, it's really a question of whichever way you feel most comfortable and accurate to do this. Some people might want to pull the paper down towards them. I tend to like to fold away from me for some reason. But yeah, I'll book fold there, turn that 90 degrees and do that again. So very similar to the water bomb base there. And yeah, if we're ready to continue, another collapse move, but this time instead of bringing everything down to the edge, I'm going to bring all 3 corners down to meet the bottom corner about once. So if I start like that, just close that up, and then I can kind of squash, and I'll put a bit of pressure on each of those edges to make the folds and creases nice and sharp.
There's some weird current sound come from your camera, Tony.
Me?
I think so.
I think the lamp that I'm using was very close to the actual to my actual camera, so that's wasn't it? That was very
I think
strange.
It's better now. It's actually better now.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is. I think it's the metal casing of this lamp vibrating strangely. So this is the preliminary base that we've made there. It has again 4 flaps and a point, but it also has these open flaps at the bottom. This can be used, hundreds and hundreds of ways. So it's something that comes up again and again. I'm sure anyone with experience has probably come across this model before. And actually, whilst we're at it, we might as well fold another one of those, because the bird base, which is the next thing I'd like to cover, it begins with the preliminary base. So it's like step one is, start with the preliminary base. I'm just gonna, I'm just bringing up the, on my laptop here. I just like to have the instructions that I've sent to people, just so that I know that I'm not mentioning anything which is not in there. I'm going to grab another piece of paper, and I'm going to come up with another quick preliminary base. So if people are ready to follow on.
Are we ready? Yeah.
I believe we started with the colored side up that time, didn't we? Yes. And it's the diagonal axes. So I'm going to line up that corner. With origami, the most important thing really is to do things deliberately and with a bit of patience and precision, especially the opening stages. Sometimes the closing stages of a model, you can completely fudge them together and the model will still look amazing. But if the original, the first set of folds is inaccurate, then the whole thing can just turn out looking really horrible. So I like to take these as slowly as time allows. But I'm just going to, without pausing each time, I think I'll crack straight on. I'll turn that over.
So I think the camera quality dropped a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe if you move slightly slower.
Yeah. I'm just going to book fold that in half like that.
Rachel?
Yes.
Can I suggest you ask people to switch their video off, and that will give Tony more bandwidth?
Okay. Shall we switch off? Well, then I wouldn't know if you are ready or not. Okay. So yeah. Okay. Let's try. I think the bandwidth is a problem is lies in with the yeah. I think the Tony side, isn't it?
Yeah,
we can try.
When we do Chinese Brush Painting Society events and we have 100 people there,
right,
we expect everybody to switch their video off while the person's doing something, and then they get the bandwidth that Zoom allocate to the whole group.
Okay, shall we try? But you all know how to unmute yourself, do you? If you have any questions, shout. Yeah, just unmute yourself and speak to us.
Is everyone okay with that? So I'm going to continue and do this collapse again. It might be worth doing that together. That's the trickier part that people to get their heads around. I'll just hold down that bottom layer. I'm going to bring these 2 points in and then squash down the top. It's a little unnerving. I'm just going to assume that if people are struggling, they're going to shout. And then we have a second preliminary base. Where did I put my notes just now? Okay, so is everybody with us with this preliminary base right there?
So yeah, you can unmute yourself. I think we either have sound with no image or with image.
I think the image of Tony's better now. We've got the videos gone. So just get people to put their sound back on.
Delia, can everyone unmute yourself?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hello.
Okay, good.
I set it up so people can unmute themselves.
Yeah. Okay, so we all ready to get on with next step?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay.
If anyone needs help and we are not seeing it, you can put it on the chat, or you can make a sign like hands up, and it will show up on the right corner of your image.
Okay, okay, next we can go on next step.
I'm going to continue, right? So yeah, I think I'll use the blue one that we made earlier to continue with this bird base, just because the pattern on that one might be harder to see. So the bird base again is something that is used in many models, and it has one step which seems to be quite confusing to some beginners. So I just wanted to make sure it's covered in a decent amount of detail in my instructions that I prepared, and I'm going to crack straight on with that. So taking our preliminary base, we see that we have these 4 flaps, and there's like the closed end, which is this tip, and the open end where we brought everything towards us. With the open end down here and facing me, and the closed end facing away, I'm now just going to take this outside edge and fold it in line with this center crease. So I want to keep all of those layers together as I do that. So I've got a bit of pressure down here and a bit of pressure here where the fold is going to be. I'll try and line up as much of that edge with the center crease as I can before I then put some pressure in the middle of the fold and again go out to the edges. So again, it's just about making sure these kind of folds are as accurate as possible. It's never worth rushing the initial folds if you want to come out with something that looks nice at the end of it. So I've done that on both sides of this side of the base, and then I'm going to unfold that. So what I've ended up with is these 2 quite sharp creases there. Sorry, I'll just fold them back up again. Before I unfold those, in fact, I'm going to do the next fold, which is to bring the tip down here, and the fold is going to go straight across the top of these there, like that. So folded down, it looks like that. I know that quality doesn't seem too great right now. And then I'm going to unfold it. So what I've ended up with is I've put this triangle of valley folds into the top layer of my preliminary base. Okay, is everyone with us?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. The next step is the bit that has some people confused when they see it in books. They're like, what's happening there? And it introduces a really important technique in origami, which is the idea of reversing a fold. So we've just put these valley folds into this layer of paper, and if I lift this up, what I'm going to need to do is reverse this fold and this fold. As I bring this up, I'm going to actually turn that valley fold into a mountain. So I'm not sure if this came across in my instructions, but what we're doing is lifting just the top layer and opening this up. You can see the white coloring on the inside, and these outside edges are going to come into the middle. I'll start with the ones at the bottom, and then as I close it up, I need to reverse the direction of the folds in the top. So we end up with this diamond kite kind of shape. I'm doing what I can to try and make the resolution a little sharper there. It doesn't seem to be playing ball. So sorry about that. But did anyone have trouble with that maneuver?
Are we all okay?
Yeah, fine.
Okay, that's excellent. Because yeah, that idea of we put a guide crease in, and then we used our guide crease to reverse the direction of that fold, and it changed the mountain into a valley, and that's exactly how it should be. So we're going to turn this over and just do the same thing with the square that's left on this side. So first I'm going to fold these corners to meet in the center. Hope you can see what I'm doing there with my hands okay. Again, just being as deliberate as possible. Always putting the most pressure on at the end when I'm sure it's like nice and lined up. There we go. And yeah, before I open those out again and fold the thing up, I'm going to take this tip. I'm going to fold this down into the middle of the model to give us another guide crease. If I unfold these now, there's our little triangle of guide creases. And I'm going to lift just that top layer. Bring the point all the way up to meet the other point. Start to reverse the folds that are in the top layer and just pinch them together loosely. But I like to bring the edges into the center before then going over those folds again. There's a lot of pinching involved in origami. And then, yeah, just to put pressure along each of those edges to make the folds as sharp as possible. And that right there, this shape with our two flaps up here and the one in the middle, that's a bird base. So called because it's used in a lot of bird models, but a ton of other models besides, as you'll see. So yeah, how are people doing there?
Can we all
Yeah,
follow?
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Excellent. I'm just really conscious that if anyone has any issues, just don't be afraid to speak up. So in
It
front of us,
seems the camera is clearer when you are not doing any movement.
yeah, no. So certain times, I think when there's something complicated that I need to show, I'll give it some time to just catch up with itself, and we'll just try and going forward with the course, we'll see what we can do to upgrade the image quality. I think for this session,
yeah,
we should be able to get away with it. Okay, so we've now got a preliminary base in front of us, a bird base, a water bomb base, and there's one more base that I wanted to cover, but maybe I don't know. Yeah, I think we'll cover this one last base because it's an archetype that's used in a lot of different models, and also it doesn't take too long to do. So the next base to cover is called the fish base. So called obviously because it's used in a lot of fishes, but also a lot of mammals. It's a really handy little base there. And I'm going to use another blue piece of paper for this. And starting with the white side up, my first move here is to fold and unfold on that diagonal axis. So lining up those corners really nicely. A little pinch in the middle and out to that corner. Oh, to be honest, I didn't line that up as well as I wanted to. I'm going to take another run at that one. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to open that out. And my next move there is to take this outside edge and this outside edge, and we're going to fold them to. So without putting too much pressure on, I just like to get the corner to where I want it. I'll come down and check that this corner is going to be accurate, and then I'll just put pressure all the way along that fold to kind of seal it in. I'm going to turn this page and fold this way because, as I say, I like to fold away from me. But whatever method you want to use that's accurate and doesn't, challenge your dexterity is most important. So I've got those really nicely lined up with the center crease, and then that's our step 2. So my next step is to fold this model in half. But as I'm looking at it now, I want to fold this tip to meet this tip, but behind. So this is going
I think I've lost sound.
Yeah, sorry, I think I got muted there. Sorry, so I was I'm going to put this mountain fold in here to fold this in half. What I'm the way I'm going to do that is to turn this over and just fold these two corners, this corner up to meet that one. Make sure all those layers are nice and close together as I make that fold really sharp. And then I'll turn this back over like that. I'll orient it this way because that's how it is in the diagrams that I prepared.
Can we all follow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If your paper looks like mine, then we're where we need to be. So the next bit is there's a couple of different things moving at once. So I'm going to do one part of it to explain it, and then maybe if you feel au fait with it, then you can follow on after. But let me do the first one to explain. This edge, this outside edge, is going to end up along the crease, the central crease here. But I'm also going to have to raise this edge like in order to do that I need to open up this layer and bring that out here, and then once that's lined up I'm just going to put a bit of pressure on there and it so we've moved this edge and these edges out at the same time, and that's called what we call a squash fold, just squashing this layer down like that. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other side, but I think does everyone understand that motion, that movement I've just done, or shall I explain it again? I'm just going to start this here by putting a finger in here, getting this point up to meet the other one, bringing that line into the center, that outside edge, sorry, into the center, and then folding along the edges. So I'm left with this kite here. Yeah, as soon as I stop moving, everything sharpens right up on this image. It's like, it's not quite ideal, but at least you can see what's been done.
Are we okay? Can we all follow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, if everyone's following that squash fold, then that's great. It bodes well. The last part of this is just to fold this outside the layer that went behind originally. I'm just going to fold that back to where it started. So I've wound up with this completed fish base here. You can see it's a diamond shape. It's got these two flaps in the middle, these two little fin flaps, and this is going to come up a number more times in the course of this of these sessions. So yeah, I think if people are ready to move on, I think if we take our fish base and we'll fold a fish out of it. I mean, let's be radical. I'll just queue up my PDF over here.
Sorry, would you mind just doing that last move again? I think I missed it.
Oh, sure. Okay. So if we've just done the squash folds.
Yeah.
Okay. Lifting this up, it's the actual we originally folded the model in half, if you remember, to do that. Or what I'm essentially doing with the last move is unfolding it again. You see, we did this went behind, we did our squash folds, and now the part that went behind, I'm just bringing it back to where it started.
Can you show us a side profile when you are flipping the bottom?
Yeah, sure. So if you got to this point where we just after we've done our squash folds, if I hold that up to the camera, you can see, yeah, I'm just bringing this point back to where it started. I'm aware that that lighting is not great. I'll just try getting some more light in the room, perhaps. I'm not sure if that might help. But yeah, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
No probs. So that's the fish base, and one of the simpler models. I think one of the things that I'd like to start off with our bases is to fold this into a fish. It's a really traditional Japanese model. It's been around for hundreds of years. One of those things where nobody knows who came up with it, but I've listed it here as the simple fish in our session plans. So yeah, the first move is to take this point and I'm going to mountain fold this. So folding it away from me, I'm going to fold it to the back, and the fold is going to end up lying just a little bit further on from this point. So if I just, yeah, this point is actually going to go to the center of the model on the reverse side, and that's all still like lined up with that center crease. So we've kind of cut that off at the nose there, and I'm then going to take the whole model and mountain fold that in half. This paper is kind of springy. Some papers are thicker. I'm using fairly basic like origami paper here, but it's very springy. Some papers will sit flatter than others. Is everyone with us up to this point?
Are we
Yes.
okay?
Yes.
Cool. Okay. So the next part of the next stage of this, there's no really important reference as to where this next fold is going to be exactly along this line. What I'm going to do is take this point, which is going to become one of the fins of our fish. I'm going to fold it just so that it ends up, sorry if you can see that a bit better, just so that it ends up lying below the baseline of this model there. I'll just leave that there so it can be seen. I'm going to turn this fish over and do the same thing again. And what with the first fold already done, I can just take this point and line it up with the other one, so it's in the same place. So I've just put this valley fold into these layers like that. And that is one side of our fish. I'm going to turn it over so that it's oriented the same way as I started. Now, the next move is something called an inside reverse fold. And I made a little explanation of reverse folds to go in the PDF. Has everyone had a look at that, at the course materials that got sent out? I mean,
Yeah.
is it worth going through, quickly going through what an inside reverse fold really is before we do that in our model? I mean, I'm just going to do that really quickly. So if I just make myself a little practice piece here, an inside reverse fold is something where I'm going to basically take this point and have it end up over here somewhere. But instead of just, sticking a valley fold in the outside of both of these layers, I'm going to open this up. And this fold, these are the folds that I've just put in by folding through our layers. There's one there, there's one there. This is a valley, and this one is a mountain. If I now make that valley fold, and the portion of this which is lying there, that is currently a valley fold. I'm going to reverse that into a mountain and then close that back up, close the model back up, also reversing the original valley fold that I put in the top. If I close this back up, it's not the neatest, but it's just to show you what I've done. I've reversed that part of the, the spine of this triangle. This is now reversed, and the body of that flap is now inside this little model. We call that an inside reverse fold. We're going to do that on the tail of our fishy, and the guide crease is going to be down here somewhere. So to begin with, I'll just fold all of those layers to make that tail stick up to roughly where I want it to finish, and just put a really sharp crease in all of those layers. And then I'm going to unfold it so I can just see the crease that I've just made. And if everyone's done that, then you're ready to do this inside reverse fold, which is going to entail opening up our fish, bringing this point up to where I wanted it along that original guide fold that I made, and then to close the fish up again, I've reversed the fold along the spine, and I've reversed that part of the fold, and then I've closed that up again, and the tail will stick up sort of in the middle of the model. Did everyone find that was followable? If I just leave that there so you can see how that looks.
Can we all follow?
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Yep. Yes. Yep.
So I know that for people who've done a lot of origami before, they've probably come across this before. I just think it's really worth covering these kind of terms as much as possible, because they come up time and time again. It's the most fundamental move in more intermediate origami is this idea of an inside and an outside reverse fold. That is essentially our completed fish, and it doesn't lie very flat. And I think if you wanted it to stay flat, one thing you could do is to stick it in the pages of a heavy book overnight, and then those folds will really take root and it'll hang. It'll stay flat. The other thing is, I think it might not be completely traditional, but it is acceptable to stick a little bit of glue and just stick that together. So you can just sort of glue those together and make it lie flat if you wanted to do that. I did have a glue stick somewhere. Not sure what I've done with it. Anyway, so in our course materials, I did say to have a glue stick handy, and it's just for little things like that. So if you want to stick a bit of glue in the middle of your fish, and it'll sit a lot nicer. But yeah, if people are happy with that, I think I'll move on. Or yeah, how much time have we spent? I'm not sure where we're at.
We are 6:30, 35. We have 45 minutes left.
Okay, cool. That's brilliant. Okay, so yeah, do people? Yeah, I mean, did anyone have trouble finishing the fish or the last fold on the fish there? Now's the time, because we can go through. That's excellent. So I think I might just take a minute to show you on this guide piece that I made. That was my little inside reverse fold that I made, and as I've covered in the literature that I put out there, there's also something called an outside reverse fold. So if I wanted to take, let's say, the other side of this and make this fold down here, I can do another type of reverse fold, sorry. It means I've got to open this right up, bring that down one again, and close that up again. And this time, after I've reversed those folds, the body of that flap is on the outside of the model, Hopefully that makes some sort of sense. This was the inside reverse fold. You know, the reversed part wound up on the inside. This was the outside reverse fold, and the reversed part wound up on the outside of the model. It'll come up in certain things. What they all have in common is you need to open something up and then close it to do it. So, okay, hopefully that'll make more sense when it comes up in practice, but I just wanted to take a little minute to explain that. So are we ready to move on to another model?
Yep.
Okay, if everyone's happy, I think maybe to go back to our water bomb base that we made. And the reason it's called the water bomb base is because that's one of the most common things that people make out of it. It's a very traditional model. It's basically a paper balloon, and it's again very traditional Japanese origami. I'll just load up my PDF over here, mainly just so that I don't start using all like different terminology or language. If I forget what I actually said materials, it's going to be confusing. So I'll just get my water bomb. There we go. Water bomb traditional. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, step one, start with my water bomb base, and I'm going to valley fold these points up to the center point here. So basically just folding this half of this flap in half. This idea of a bisector, folding an angle in half, is something which comes up a lot in origami. If we want to thin something out, sometimes in diagrams you'll see it'll just say fold angle bisector, and that's just the mathematician's way of saying fold this bit in half. So I've done that with both sides of that flap, and I'll just leave that to settle on the camera, so hopefully you can actually see what's been done. So I'm just having a little fiddle with that because it's not very clear. Okay, I'm actually going to turn over the model and repeat that maneuver, and we wind up with this complicated looking little square. Complicated looking in that it's got a lot of flaps.
Yeah, maybe just stay still a bit. Yeah, help the camera to focus.
Yeah. I'm sure that worked better when we tried it out before. I'm not sure what's gone on with that today, but if people are following, I guess that's good enough for me at this moment. Okay.
Can we all follow so
Yep.
far? Good.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just, yeah, I'm really glad that people are able to follow, given that this is quite so bitty. So my next move is to take this outside corner to the center, like the very center of this square. So you see that I've basically just taken just that outside edge, so you can still see the layer underneath. I'm going to do that on both sides of this little model, and in as much as possible, this form that's left here, these angles should all be right angles, 90 degrees. I've got like a square here, I've got a square here. I'm going to turn over the model.
Can we stay still for a few seconds?
Yeah.
Can we all see clear this
Yep.
step? Yeah. Okay.
Is that making sense? Yeah, it doesn't lie very flat, but if I just leave my fingers there for a second. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn over and do the same thing on the other side. Something else which you'll see a lot of in origami, as you look through diagrams and different things, it'll just say repeat behind, or repeat on reverse, because most of what you make, certainly in intermediate level origami, is pretty symmetrical. There are some non-symmetrical models, but most things that you come across end up being quite symmetrical. So here is my water bomb base. Because I started out with the long edge of my triangle facing me and then folded those outside edges up. This point that's facing me at the bottom is the closed end, as it were. And at the top, I've got a bunch more flaps, right? So my next maneuver is to take just the top two flaps and bring them down again to kind of meet the same point. Like that, see? I'm going to turn it over and do behind, but hopefully you can see where I've just folded those flaps down to. Obviously this point in the middle is going to still be there. So I've just turned it over. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Like that.
Can we follow?
Everyone there? I wish I could see people sort of waving their models at me and stuff, but I'll trust my hosts to let me know if anyone. Oh, is someone saying something?
Can we all follow this step? Tony, do you would you mind just lift up the model? Let's see from the top.
You want to see from the top down?
Yeah, maybe just slowly turn around so we can all see all angle.
Okay, sure. So it should be basically the same on the front and back. It doesn't really help that's the same color as my hand, does it? Yeah, it's basically the same on the front and the back. What we're left with here, this tip is closed. There's my two little, oh gosh, can't orientate with the camera there. The bottom, so yeah, the whole thing has these sort of 4 flaps in total. That's looking up from the bottom of the model, the closed end. But the part that we just folded down, the 2 little flaps, are at this point.
Okay.
Are we all in the same place?
Are we okay to get on with the next
Yeah.
step?
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next part is to take each of these 4 flaps and gently, I'll see if I can do this closer to this camera and also nice and slowly. I'm going to open up this little flap and I'm going to get the corner of this one and slip it inside. And then try and close that up with as much of that flap inside and aligned with that as possible, so it's essentially invisible. You can still just see where it went in, but that whole flap, this whole flap on this side is going to wind up in here, all of it. So I'm going to open up this side now, just stick the corner in, just the tip of the corner, and then as I start to close that back up again, I'll, using my finger here, I'm just going to push down on the edge that I want to be like as flush as possible with the top of that pocket, as it were. And I'm just, when you see me just sort of doing things like this, I'm just putting a lot of pressure along the points, along all the folds. It's something that you just sort of find yourself doing instinctively in origami. You'll just take a flap and just pinch along it just to keep everything nice and tight. I'm going to turn this over and do the same thing with the flaps on the back side. So I'll just use my thumb to open up that pocket.
Can you stop there for a few seconds so we can
sure.
see the pocket?
Sure.
Yeah.
So the pocket is made. This was our, the square that we started with. That was the water bomb base. We folded that one up. We folded this one into the middle, and the pocket is essentially the 2 sides of that flap that we folded into the middle. So we then got this tip down here, and then I'm going to just wait and hold that open so that you can.
Yeah.
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 Okay. I'm going to go ahead and get the tip of that. And in the diagram, you can sort of just see where the fold ends up lying. The fold ends up lying like along this edge. And I'm just going to go ahead, I think, and do that last one. Again, just getting the tip inside. I'm trying to keep the layers as tight together as possible when I do this, because particularly in this model, this one it's a bit bouncy, so I'm actually just going to fold it down edge to edge to make a guide crease, and then do the fold again, get the tip inside. That's probably something I could have put in there as a step. It would be to guide crease all of those, but this is going to suffice. So I'll leave that there now. That's my little
Can we follow so
water
far?
bottle. Is everyone there?
Yeah.
So yeah, the next bit, I don't know, I'm not going to be able to do this on the origami cam, but you'll see what I do on my camera over here. The closed. Yeah.
Well, your other cameras, I think. Oh yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. If people can see it. I'm basically just going to find the open end of this model. So the end where I put the flaps is facing away from me right now, and I'm gonna blow into the bottom here and inflate that. So if I just put my lips to that and go, just bringing that apart a little bit, what we end up with, so I'll actually just do that again, because you've got on my other camera here. I'm just going to go like that, and it blows up like a balloon. So yeah. So the idea is you could fill that with a tap and throw it at your friend or enemy, and that was a bona fide water bomb or a balloon. I mean, I've seen them used in lanterns. If you get fairy lights just with LEDs, something that's not going to be hot, you can make these and just have the LEDs poking in there and turn them into lanterns quite easily. If you can be bothered to make 20 or 30 water bombs, it's actually quite a nice little project.
Do we all have little water bomb now?
Did that work for everybody?
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't know where to blow.
Okay, so
I think Celia, please can we go back to the origami cam so Tony can point out which end?
I've just flattened my little thingy here again. So this was where I folded the pockets inside. Okay, this was pocket number 1 over here, and I folded that flap in there. The place to blow is on the opposite end. So where my thumb is right now is the top of one of the flaps that went in the pocket. Sorry about the focus. I wish there was something I could do about it. It seems to have a bit of a life of its own. So where my thumb is right now is along the edge of one of those flaps that we folded in, and where my little finger is pointing is where we had to blow. So I guess when I blew it, I was holding it here, maybe on one of the inner flaps, maybe just sort of spread those out a little bit, if that makes any sense. And you can see there's a little hole at the bottom there, and that's right at the nexus of these flaps. I'm aware that the resolution isn't really showing it, but there's a little hole, and that's where I've just blown up. I can kind of hear people blowing away. It's kind of It's kind of pretty.
Shall we all show our water bomb? Just put our camera on.
I would love to see people again. Feel a bit like a radio host at this moment, you know. Oh, excellent. Look at that.
Wow.
Nice.
I love the blue and red. That's excellent.
Patterning. So has anyone ever come across that before? Have you seen these things? Have you ever made one before, Marion? Or yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that Japanese kids will make in school, and presumably,
Yeah,
you know,
I've made them in school as well.
I think I remember making one when I was a kid.
Yeah, for a second, can also, I don't know if you mentioned, but you can put fairy lights inside. So if you have a string of
Yes,
lights and they're
yes,
like
he
little
did.
lanterns.
If you've got LED fairy lights, you can just basically stick those in the little hole that you blew there, and it's a really nice craft project if you've got time on your hands to make a bunch of those to stick on some fairy lights. Okay, so I think I'm going to just press straight ahead if people are happy for me to do so. The model that I'd really like to cover today is a real archetype in origami. It's the crane. It's a real symbol of the art form is the Japanese crane, and there's even would you call it a myth or a legend? I don't know the provenance of it, but the idea is that if you fold 1,000 of these, you will be blessed with luck. I'm not going to get any more specific than that. You know, don't sue me if you don't get lucky after folding 1,000 cranes, but apparently it brings good luck, and I think I must be close. I don't know how many of these I've folded in my life, but I used to get 3 of them out of a bus ticket and leave them on people's heads on the bus, but that's like another story. So I think if we take our bird base that we started off with, that's where we start for the crane. Let me just bring up my instructions over here. Yeah. So if people are ready for me to go into that, I'll get straight on with it. So the important thing to begin with is to have the bird base oriented correctly. Looking down on this kite shape, down here I've got 2 flaps that separate, right? And this here is all one plane. I want to have the 2 flaps that separate pointing towards me, pointing down towards me, and the part that's one big plane facing away from me. And with that in with that like definitely ascertained, I'm going to take this outside edge of the top flap and fold it into the middle of the model like that, and just make that fold as sharp as I can possibly make it. A lot of nice pressure on there. I'm going to do the same thing on here, and then I'll pause to let the camera catch up and make sure that everyone's with me. So,
Can we follow?
are we ready? Cool. I'm then just going to turn the whole model over and repeat on the reverse side. I like to kind of get the center of that lined up. I like to make sure the point's going to be nice and sharp, and then put pressure, oops, all the way along. Like that. And what we end up with is this very elongated kind of kite shape. And as I say, these long thin points, these are the ones that separate like that. So I'll just pause there. Give us a shout if you're ready to move on. I definitely don't want to go into the next bit without that making sure people are ready.
I'm ready.
Are we all ready?
Okay, cool. So the next thing that's going to happen is a couple of those inside reverse folds that we did before. And to do these in the right orientation, I'm going to first do a guide fold, a guide crease, you might say, just by taking this whole long flap. It's going to end up being the head or neck of my crane. I'm going to fold this point out to here, like that, and make, I actually just do that a little higher. This is the point at which you can orient it wherever you want. I'm going to end up with it like this and make that guide crease as sharp as possible, because I want the crease to be printed all through all of the layers of this. I'm just going to do the same thing with the other flap to make sure that they're essentially at the same angle. So all we did was take the flap, do that with it, and then just make that crease really sharp. And then I'll unfold it. You can see where the sharp crease is left in there. So that's my guide crease. And to make the inside reverse fold, I'm gonna just put a finger in there and open this up to this side. I'll bring my point back up to where I wanted it. And the center crease here of this flap is going to reverse. Right now you're looking down on this little valley fold. That's going to end up being a mountain fold. And keeping all of those layers as tight together as possible. And then just going to close back up. Oh gosh. That's not the neatest, I got to tell you. There we go. So you can see that was the part that reversed. Let me just turn that over so it can be seen from that angle. And this just comes up now between, just give me a second to neaten that up because it's kind of ugly. Always when you're on camera. Right, there you go. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So it's opening this up, folding that up to where I wanted it, then finding where my guide fold was and like reversing that section and then closing this back up. And I've done these two inside reverse folds like that. And I'll leave that as it is so the camera can focus. And yeah, let me know if that is if we're all there.
Yeah, can we follow at this stage?
It's fine.
Awesome. Okay, so the next bit is to take one of them, and it doesn't really matter which one. In my case, I'm going to use this one on my left, and I'm going to make another. Well, I'll fold it into place first, but I wouldn't ordinarily really do this. I'll just do this as a single motion just to put a reverse fold into this, but the head's going to end up facing down like this. But I want that to, you know, at the moment I've just folded the whole flap. I want to open that back up, open this up to make an inside reverse fold again. So it's like opening up the flap, bring the point to where you want it, and then closing that flap up again and making the fold really nice and sharp. And that's now the head of my crane. So from the side, it kind of looks like he's in flight and his wings are up. Did anyone have trouble with those reverse folds?
Do we need to repeat this step?
I'm okay,
Happy to
thanks.
Okay. I think we are fine.
Okay. Okay, cool. I think the next bit that comes with this is I can dimly remember doing this for the first time, and it was one of those little magical things that made me want to do this, made me want to know more about origami. I think I made my first one of these when I was about 11. The last part of making this is you take the wings as these, you know, these two parts of our bird base are. I'm just going to basically really gently open them up. And as I do that, the body of the bird kind of puffs out and becomes three-dimensional. This isn't the neatest one. It's not the best paper, honestly. But if I put a little fold into the wing, maybe give them a little curl. I give them a little curl just by getting a finger under there and just like it says, just curling that, curling it to the tip like that. And that body kind of puffs out like a little pillow. And it just becomes three-dimensional. And now you've got this bird flying through the sky. That's my completed crane. Did anyone find that problematic?
No.
Can we see your cranes? Celia, can we see everyone's cranes, please?
Putting everyone slowly back to video if everyone is okay with
Oh, lovely. I love the purple color.
Awesome. So these are,
Yeah, wow. Well done, everyone.
so those kind of folds that we've done to achieve that, the inside reverse fold, it comes up time and time again in origami, and it's just worth really kind of understanding them. So if you've managed to follow that, okay, then that's really good. Yeah, we have a little bit of time left, I think. So with the instructions that got sent out with the PDF, there is another model that's based on a bird base. And I was thinking about maybe leaving that as a bit of homework. If people can have a go at that and see how you get on with it before next week. It's the simple, I think I called it the simple dinosaur.
T-Rex.
Like it's like a little velociraptor, very generic kind of dinosaur.
T-Rex.
Okay. T-Rex, have you seen it? Have you had a go at folding it already, Marianne? Oh, excellent. Look at that. She's way ahead of the curve, man.
Getting the toenails in place.
I did a Christmas themed origami work. That's really beautiful work. I did a Christmas themed origami workshop, didn't we? Marion was an attendee of the Christmas card workshop, and maybe 3 or 4 days later, we got this picture of how many cards did you make? You made like 20
34.
Christmas trees. 34.
34.
Laid out. So Marion's like,
But then I made the others with reindeer.
you made the others with what?
Reindeer.
Oh, okay, excellent. Yeah, because we did
Origami 2, the sequel.
the second session. Yeah. So yeah, okay. Well, okay, you've done your homework already. Anyone else who wants to have a crack at that, you'll find that it's all pretty much inside reverse folds. There's a double one. I tried to break it down really nicely in the instructions, and it shouldn't be too tricky. But yeah, as far as today goes, there was actually one thing that I wanted to cover on a bit of a PDF, which I took pictures for, and I don't know what happened to the actual document, but there is another model that we can make because it teaches us something about the outside reverse fold, and also the outside reverse fold, and also something called a crimp or pleat, which is very, very common. So I'm just actually looking it up in my little one of my little origami Bibles over here. And so we don't have diagrams for you, but I will make them and send them out with materials for one of the future sessions. But if you want to follow along with this, we'll have a go at finishing off today with a swan. Another quite traditional model. And I'm going to take, I think I'll do them in green. So if we're ready to go straight into this, The first thing is to stick a crease, and really nice central crease along this diagonal axis like that. So fold in half with the points. And I'm going to open that up, kind of like we started with the fish base. Well, exactly like we started with the fish base. In fact, I'm going to take these outside edges to the central crease and do that as sharply and accurately as I possibly can on both sides. Just making sure that's lined up. I like to hold the corners, make those nice before I commit to the crease, as it were. Awesome. And that's stage one of that. So next part is to essentially turn this over and do the same thing again. So I've turned it over. I'm going to take these outside edges to the center. Make this really long, thin, elegant swan shape. Elegant, well, kite shape, I should say. Folding bisectors is basically your number one way of making a triangle thinner. Mostly it's in factors of like a half each time. So I'm just going to turn that back over. So I'm looking at the side that I started with. And to take this moment to ask if everyone's with us.
I think we are. Yep.
I'm going to just valley fold this now in half. So from this orientation down like that. Might mean that I've got to kind of get in here, open this up a little bit just to make them all sit nicely and behave themselves. But I wind up with this dart like this. And the next stage is to do an outside reverse fold at this point up here, because it's going to be the neck of my swan. So a point roughly halfway along here, but again, you just kind of got to use your judgment. I'm going to put a guide crease in first by folding, just valley folding through all of the layers. Make this the kind of angle. If I picture this as the body of my swan, I kind of want his neck up here at this angle. I want it to finish up like this, but not to be just a fold through all the layers. It's going to be an outside reverse fold. So to make that, I'll first unfold my guide fold. I'm going to open up this model, and at this point where I made that initial fold, I'm just going to put a bit of pressure there with my fingertip, turn this inside out as it were, but I'm keeping the bottom half. This section is exactly as it was before. I'm going to close that up. It means that one part of my guide fold is already a mountain, and the other part is a valley which I need to reverse. See what I've done there? If I close that up now and reverse it all the way up the neck, we've done an outside reverse fold. It's the same on both sides. You can see that this plane is now on the outside of the model. So let me ask at this point if everybody followed that.
Yeah.
Awesome, because yeah, the outside ones tend to be less intuitive than the inside ones, but they're every bit as important. They come up throughout origami. So if that's the first time you've done that, then congratulations. We're going to do another one to make the head. So at some point just up here, I'm just going to say, I don't know, about 2/3 of the way along. That to me looks like a nice swan shape, nice size for that sort of swan head. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'll do a guide fold like that. make the crease really nice and sharp. Then bring that back to where it was. Open this up. I'm going to put my finger on the back there and just bring that point back down to where I want it. Half of that is already the mountain that I want it to be. The other half needs to be reversed. And the spine of that needs to be reversed as well. And now I've got a long, thin, possibly too thin, but you know, it's a matter of taste. It's the head of my swan there. So is everyone happy with their second outside reverse fold?
Yeah.
Okay. So another concept in this really simple little model, we cover 3 really important concepts in origami. There's the outside reverse folds that we've done. The next one is this idea of pulling out some layers of paper. So inside the head here, I'll try and do this really slowly because it'd be good if you can see what I'm doing. Just opening up the head there, I can see that there's a layer of paper I can get my thumb in, and if I reverse that part of the fold and then pinch that together and close it up again, that head is now, let me just leave that like that and see if I can get some light on it. That head is now much thicker because I've brought out, I've loosened up some paper from inside and brought it down. If I do that, turn this model over and do that on the other side. So I've just got that in there. It's only that top layer that I want to get. This is now like 1 layer thin. And then the section of that which is currently a valley, I just need to reverse that part of it and then close it up again to lie flat. And now that's the head of my swan. Almost done there, see? Did anyone have trouble getting those layers out? Do you see what I'm talking about?
Can we all follow?
Yep.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm really glad, because again, it's not always easy to know what I'm talking about. And if I'm right there in front of you, I can just hold it in front of your face and show you it from different angles. And in this kind of setup, it's really difficult to know if you can see or not. So now that's a lot more chunky, basically, this head. We've doubled it in thickness. And our last thing to do, so the third of the 3 concepts I said, is a pleat. So a pleat essentially is just like, if I grab my little guide thing here, let's say I've got a flap like that. A pleat is basically just going valley there and a mountain there. Okay, that is a simple pleat. But if I'm doing that on a flap, it's opening it out. Valley there, mountain there, close it back up. And what that pleat has done is essentially push part of this flap inside. I can pull that out. That's where it all started. After I've pleated it, after I've crimped it, as it were, it's now like sticking out from its little housing, you see. We're going to do that with the head of our swan. And a way to do it would be to do it with a guide crease. It might be the best way to do it this time. First, I'll just stick a mountain fold and fold that away from me behind, about there, and then valley fold that on the other side to make that kind of basic shape. But obviously all I've done is zigzagged that paper, and we're not going to leave it like that. I'm going to open this up. So through all of those layers, excuse me, I'll then fold that whole point inside and outside at the same time. It's kind of fiddly to show, but that's the opened up head of my swan there. I've just folded the point inside and then back on itself, and now when I close that head back up again, the swan is going to have a little beak sticking out of the front of its face. That's from above like that, and that's actually 10 times more figurative and swan-like than it was. And that's my swan.
Yeah.
How are we feeling about that?
Is it this last bit quite tricky? Can we get it?
Yeah, that was, it is tricky, but let us know if you want to see.
Can we follow?
Yeah, my swan looks like it's got a bit of a broken beak.
Shall we see? Celia?
It's just I think
Is it a little bit wonky?
it's probably just because I've been folding it too much.
Well, that can happen. It's like paper just gets tired sometimes. It gets a bit of fatigue.
I've got
It
a slightly,
looks like it's supposed
slightly
to.
bent beak as well.
Wow,
Looks
they are excellent.
fine to me. I would say it's like the pleats are very close together. So if you know what I mean? If you wanted it to sit more in the center, it's like, they seem a little.
Celia, can we
not
go
quite.
back?
That looks fantastic, Kieran. Yep.
Oh, sorry.
It's just,
I'm having a refold.
and that is always a thing that you can do. You can always refold something. If I just want to kind of show you that from the bottom. Like you can see, mine is not straight either, right? It's not the prettiest, most straightest fold, but at the end of the day, if that's sitting on a shelf somewhere, the nice thing about this is you don't need any glue or anything. It just sits there quite happily on its own little triangular base, and it's a nice figurative little thing. At the end of the day, nobody walks up and measures the angles on a model and makes sure they're all perfect. If you've done the initial ones as accurately as you can, you get a lot of leeway with the shaping, as like the last stage of making a model is the shaping part, and you can get away with murder in the shaping. A lot of things can just be saved as long as the basics are in there. It'll look like it's supposed to look.
Sarah, are you okay? Could you follow us? Well, can't
We
hear.
lost Sarah.
Okay.
I asked you mute, but it's me. Now she's.
Yep, no, I'm fine.
Okay. Yeah. Just wonder if you could follow. We will
Yeah,
send
no,
the
I can.
recording. Yeah. Okay.
I've refolded it so the neck's longer and the body's shorter because the body seemed to be a bit long.
Yeah, that's actually even more of a regal looking swan, I think. I feel like
You've got his beak. His beak's a bit bent, same as the other one.
Well, they're always getting in fights, you see. They're aggressive beasts. That's the problem. I think honestly, mine looks more like a goose or a duck, but at the end of the day, it's in the eye of the beholder. So I think I was planning to kind of leave it there. If people would like me to go through any of the things for the dinosaur, then I can do. But I feel like it might be fun to see how people get on with that. And also, I'm not too sure where we're at with time. So if there's extra time and people want to talk about things, I'm happy to do that.
We are 5 minutes over, but yeah, we're happy to take some questions. If you have questions or anything you would like to flag up at this stage.
What I might do is, hold on, I'm just going to grab a couple of the things. So if anyone's curious about where we're going next with this, the stage 2, we're going to go kind of in at the deep end really and go with a nice little cat model. So the plan in this course is to do a couple of different cats as it goes, but this is a really nice one. That's not. It's very figurative. It's very kind of. It's very kind of geometric and polygonal in its style, but it still looks. It still looks really nice. Oh no, I think my origami cam might have lost its. Yeah, I think yeah, we don't need it. I think it's about to run out of power because it's.
Not plugged in.
Yeah, if the origami cam, if we lose it, it's probably a good thing that we finished that there. I'm not sure at what point that became unhooked, but yeah, it's lost some power. But yeah, we're going to be covering this little pussycat, and hopefully we'll be able to do it. Yeah, I mean it's got a couple of challenging aspects, but essentially, you know, it's yeah, I've got a little white one there as well. In that style, it's really beautiful. It's been around since about 2017. It's a Japanese designer, I think, and I got it out of a booklet from the Korean Convention 2017. And it's, I don't know, I really like it. But like for the simplicity of it, it's a really pretty model. So that's where we're going to go next, and you'll receive your diagrams for that. And if you want to have a go ahead of time, you can do, obviously, but you know, doing things together and the guided fold is how I've envisaged the course. So yeah, feel free to have a go. If there's any bits ahead of time that you find really difficult, then I'll be on hand to answer questions next week. And yeah, I hope people have enjoyed the session.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, no, lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about the origami cam quality today. We'll work on something, improve for next week. But at the meantime, we will send you the recording from today, hopefully tomorrow, and so you can revise, do the homework. What is our homework again?
Well, the homework, I was thinking, in the diagrams that have been sent out already, there is the Velociraptor T-Rex.
Oh, yes.
I would encourage people to have a crack at that. It's based on a bird base. But yeah, I guess dinosaurs and birds, they're related evolutionarily, but it's just a nice demonstration of how, you know, you can make more than birds with it. So like it's all basically, I think there's an outside reverse fold. It's mostly inside ones. But it should be...
It's not that difficult, so give it a go.
It's one of those ones I got shown. For me, it's something I was shown once and I never needed to see it again. It was just always quite intuitive. So it should be about the right level, and just see how you get on.
Brilliant.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
We see you next week.
Yeah.
Excellent. I've really enjoyed it.
Take care.
Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Good evening.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Ah.